Good afternoon, friends. Today we will talk about the expenses that a property owner in Spain has to bear. I'd like to start by noting that in our first video, we discussed the costs associated with purchasing real estate. If you haven't seen it yet, you can visit our YouTube channel to watch it, or we'll leave a link in the description below this video. Let's move on to discussing the expenses that concern property owners in Spain. Friends, I'd like to point out that we live on the coast, Costa Blanca, so the expenses we'll discuss will reflect the average prices across our region. That's because the cost of services from various companies, like water, electricity, and taxes, is set at the community level, but each city and local authority also adjusts and regulates these rates. So this will be the average price for the entire region. We can also divide these expenses into two large subgroups. The first is payment for the services of companies that provide us with water, electricity, and garbage removal. And the second part of the expenses concerns taxation. The first expense item is electricity. These payments are made monthly, and even if you bought an apartment for vacation and don't live here all year round, for the months when you are not residing, you will still be charged a minimum payment. It will be approximately 15 to 20 euros per month. If you do happen to live in an apartment, then for a typical family of 3 to 4 people, the average monthly electricity bill is approximately 70 euros, which is quite reasonable. Of course, during the absolutely coldest or the incredibly hottest months of the year, when we consistently use the air conditioner to either efficiently heat the entire apartment or effectively cool the spacious room, the monthly electricity bill will undoubtedly exceed 100 euros, a significant amount. The next expense item concerns water. This bill comes once every 3 months. Let's recalculate it per month. A family of 3 or 4 people will spend approximately 25 to 30 euros per month on the water bill. But in this case, just like with electricity, even if you don't live there, there will still be a minimum payment, about 15 euros per month. We live on the Costa Blanca coast in the province of Alicante. We have quite warm weather. There is no central heating system here, so people generally do not utilize services like natural gas. It is exceedingly rare to find residential houses or apartments that are fully equipped with a comprehensive gas system. Usually it's individual, self-contained equipment primarily for heating water rather than for entire home heating. Or maybe there's a gas cooktop, or perhaps someone has even installed individual home heating based on gas. But that would be bottled gas, which is purchased separately. And it's very, very hard to accurately calculate because it significantly depends on the precise size of the entire home and the specific equipment your home is currently fitted with, you see. So I can't really give you any guidance on this expense item. One of the largest expense items also concerns the management company of your building or complex. Here the amounts of expenses can vary greatly. It will depend whether you have a small apartment in a building with no common areas or pool, or maybe you have an apartment in a complex that's lush with greenery, with extra amenities, pools, fitness clubs, and a sauna. Of course, expenses in such a complex will be higher. Let's take a look at the example of an apartment that doesn't have any additional services. In that case, the community fee might be around 20 to 25 euros per month. Usually, payments are made either once every 6 months or quarterly. But if the apartment has all these extra services, like a sauna, fitness clubs, several swimming pools, and even a heated pool, and most importantly, if your complex is lush with greenery, you should know that these are the most expensive community fees. They will start at only 100 euros per month. However, if you have a standalone villa and there are no shared areas, then you won't have this expense at all. We also have a separate expense item for garbage removal. But this is a small expense, about 5 euros per month along our entire coastline. And usually people install cable internet in their apartments. In that case, this expense would be 20 to 30 euros per month. Or for people who come here just for vacation, a special program has been developed in our region. You can book in advance with the company, specify your arrival dates, and they will connect the internet for you only during your stay in your apartment or house. Well, that's basically it. We have covered all types of services provided by utility companies, and now we move on to the next type of expense, taxes. Property tax is paid once a year. This is usually done in the fall. The amount of tax depends on your property, how close it is to the sea, whether you have land plots or it's just an apartment. But in my experience, the cheapest tax I've seen for a small apartment is 100 to 120 euros per year. And for example, the tax on a villa with a large plot of land can be 700 to 800 euros per year. There is also a non-resident tax in Spain, meaning it applies to people who do not permanently reside in Spain. Alternatively, this tax can also apply to residents or Spaniards if the property is not their primary residence. This could be a vacation home in the mountains or on the coast, for example, which you use occasionally. Spain assumes that you can earn income from such property. And regardless of whether you take advantage of this opportunity, whether you actually earn income or not, Spain will still charge you the tax. It is paid once a year. It is approximately equal to the same as the property tax. The calculation is different, but the amount ends up being about the same. If you have an apartment and its property tax is 150 euros, then the imputed tax, also called the non-resident tax, will be about the same amount. But if you rent out this property, either occasionally or if you bought it specifically to rent out, then you will have to pay tax on the income earned from this property. And for the days when you did not rent it out, an imputed income will be recalculated for those days. An important point here is that, for example, all the previous expenses I mentioned to you, utilities, property tax, can be set up for automatic payment from your account. But the non-resident tax or imputed tax cannot be set up for automatic payment. That is, every year you need to file a declaration about the income you received or did not receive and the income that was imputed to you. You need to submit a declaration and an order for payment to have the tax amounts debited from your account. There is also a luxury tax in Spain. Of course, this tax applies to those whose total property value, either combined or for a single property, exceeds more than 1 million. The tax is actually complicated to calculate and depends on many factors. So I won't go into the specifics of this tax here. We're just letting you know that it exists. So basically, these are all the expenses that a property owner has to bear. We hope we've managed to give you some insight into the fact that not only do you incur costs when purchasing real estate, but also when using it, you have expenses every year and every month. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you would like us to cover a particular topic, please let us know as well, and we will prepare that material for you. In our next episode, we want to give you specific examples of real estate expenses. For example, we'll take a small apartment and break down all the expenses associated with it. An apartment in a fully equipped complex or a standalone house. And you'll have a clearer idea of how much each type of property costs to maintain. Friends, subscribe to our channels on YouTube or on social media platforms. We are always happy to answer your questions and share useful information. This was Evgenia from Adel Property. See you soon. All the best. Goodbye.